Hi, it's August 14th, and I'm Dane Campbell, and I want to welcome you back to Change with Dane. So, I started this channel back in April of 2025 with the goal to give people ideas or thoughts about how they can make small changes in their life, in their thoughts and behaviors, to bring them greater peace and success and happiness. Since it has been a few months since I started this process, I thought that it would be good to review some of the things that we've talked about just in an overall general sense, because sometimes repetition of ideas and repetition of thoughts will spark in us small details that we might have missed or forgot. And certainly I don't expect people to go back and watch every single video again that I have created regarding change. So let me just review a few things, major issues that we've talked about, in the hopes that this will again help you in this process, this continual process that we go through, which is change and some of the challenges and difficulties associated with that. So I started off talking about why change, why we would even think about or consider changing things in our lives. And of course, when we review our lives, oftentimes there are things we think and things we do that do not add to our peace and that do not add to our success or happiness. And oftentimes we can find very small or minute things that we might be able to adjust or change that can actually help us become more successful or help us find greater peace in our existence and in our life. And so I talked quite a bit about how to identify those things, those thoughts and behaviors that are habitual, and the necessity to put continual and focused effort and practice on changing those things, because as we know, to create a new habit or to get rid of an old habit, it takes focused, concentrated effort to be able to do that. If you'll remember back, we decided to look at and find a specific thing that you might be telling yourself that is creating difficulty. And then I gave you some specific skills that you could try using that might help in changing those thoughts. Remember, they were defining an aim, developing self-compassion, and avoiding the use of triggering words or changing triggering words. So I would just go back and review the efforts that you've tried to make. And if you've tried to do some of these things, if that has worked for you, and if it has, build upon that foundation and reinforce yourself for finding a way to do some of these things. And if you've kind of forgot, just turn your attention back to those efforts and look at the things that have been helpful to you and do more of it. I've shared a number of personal experiences with you in my own life in which I've had to confront negative or thought processes that were kind of holding me back professionally, in some new things that I've learned as I've remodeled and improved certain parts of my home. Some of those kinds of things, in the hopes that you'll understand that we all go through these processes. And it's okay to identify and look at some of these thoughts that we might have and how they can have a tendency sometimes to hold us back or to keep us from moving forward with some of the things that we might want to do different or better or could bring us greater peace or success in life. All of us have these thoughts and behaviors, and as you know, it's never the easiest thing to change them. But once again, I want to be your cheerleader and let you know that with the continued effort and the continued focus, you can make inroads into thinking about things in a different way. Most recently, I thought it was important to share with you some tools in stress reduction, because oftentimes when we go through changes, whether they are changes that we choose to do for ourselves or they are changes that are thrust upon us just by virtue of the fact that we live in the world, we do need to find ways to better deal with stressful situations, because even though some stress is good, if we have over stress or stress that doesn't go away or stress that we can't manage, it can lead to significant negative health problems. And so I wanted to share with you these tools that oftentimes help people reduce stress. And I'll just lay those out again. Remember, we talked about communicating. We talked about breathing, and we talked about a couple of other specific tools that can actually help you reduce stress. And these are changes in and of themselves, right? Sometimes we may not do that well when stress comes up for us. So learning new behaviors, learning different things that you can say to yourself, self-talk about stress and how it might be used as a tool in learning rather than this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. Those kinds of things can actually make the stress work for you and make the stress be something more of a positive aspect in your life, as opposed to something that has to be avoided at all costs and something that is deleterious to you in the long run. So these tools that I shared with you aren't everything that you can do to reduce or work with or make stress be a potential positive for you. But it's a starting point. And maybe you've never even thought about how you can deal with stress in a different way, or how you can find positive ways to help you through stressful situations. And so if this is a new thing, great. I hope you will consider them, and I hope you'll use them, and I hope that you will continue to build upon any of the tools that you find helpful. So where do we go from here? I think it's extremely important for you to continue to practice and work on changing some of those thoughts that might not be giving you the benefits or the positive benefits or what you want out of life. But I think in the very near future, I'm going to start talking about how to change specific behaviors. And this process is very similar to the process that I've talked about in changing thoughts. I'll encourage you to find small things to begin with. I'll encourage you to look at the behaviors in terms of, is it a positive thing that you want to add or something negative that you want to take away. And then we'll talk about considerations in how to reinforce yourself when you have success, and sometimes how to overcome the challenges when things don't go exactly according to plan when you're trying to change. So it's a very similar process to changing thoughts, but I think it will, because it is an important aspect of life, I think it will be important to talk specifically about how you can find success in identifying and changing small behaviors that you want to be different or that you think would bring you greater peace or success or happiness in life. And then once we kind of go through the behaviors aspect, I want to talk about resilience and how to find understanding and peace and growth when change is thrust upon you. Because if you'll remember way back at the beginning, we talked about how oftentimes we choose to change certain things, and that's the process that you're going through right now. But because we live in this world and it can be unpredictable, and certain things do happen to us and around us that we don't have control over, but it certainly affects us and causes us to go through change. Let me just give you a quick example because I want to give you a little bit of a teaser. But if you were in a family and you experienced the death of a family member, maybe a parent or a sibling or even a grandparent that was very close to you, that would be change that you had no control over. And oftentimes, depending on who that person in the family was, that can mean a lot of differences going on in your life because of that loss. And so it is not easy to go through these changes. For many people, it would be preferable if you didn't have to go through these changes. But you can learn from them and you can grow from them. And so I want to talk about the resilience of humans and how to build resilience within yourself so that when change is thrust upon you, you can have greater success in coping with the challenges that come with that specific change. I really appreciate you listening to me. I hope that this is helpful information to you. Please like and please subscribe. If you have questions about change and want me to consider answering them, put them in the comments and I'll answer them there or in subsequent videos. I really appreciate you tuning in, and I wish you great success on the changes that you're trying to implement in your life. Until next time, take care.